Hello, environmental activists. I'm actually coming to you from the world that you so desperately want to create. Without electricity, there is no light. Unless you have fire. It's a primitive thought, but it's true. Fortunately, we can actually change the path that we're headed down and prevent that world from coming. While there is some artificial light around me because, I live in America, you can't turn it all off. For the most part, this is what it would look like. We would go back to the basic primitive times when the sun went down, your day ended. So, to start off, I want to talk about the Earth. The Earth is doomed. No matter what we do, the Earth is going to die because stars and planets, like humans, have life cycles. Now, because ours is so much shorter than the previously mentioned, we can't really comprehend the life cycle of a star or planet. But, at some point, our sun, we know, will enter into its red phase, and when it does, it's going to vastly expand. And when it vastly expands, it's going to come close enough to the Earth that it might actually envelop it through its gravitational pull and its expanding, or it's going to get close enough that it's literally going to torch the Earth, blow our atmosphere away, and make this planet uninhabitable to humans, or any life as we know it today. Basically, it'll make us another Mercury or Mars, whichever one you want to talk about, because Mercury is the hot one, though Mars is kind of our twin sister in a lot of ways. That being the case, we really need to just come out and admit as a society that man-made global climate change, man-made global warming, or man-made global freezing, most people will say the first one because it catches the other two, and they flip-flopped around the other two for a while to a point that they finally had to come up with a third to say, well, people keep saying we're saying freezing and then we're saying it's heating, and we don't want to look like a bunch of assholes. But, I mean, it's already happened, at least to anyone with intelligence. They think they look like a bunch of assholes. When you talk about man-made global warming or man-made global climate change, the first thing that every environmentalist wants to talk about is CO2. Any science report that has any credibility states that humans generally produce 3 to 7% of the CO2 released into the atmosphere each year. That 7% was obviously from a study that was a little bit politically motivated, but had enough good science to be accepted by the community. So, 93 to 97% of the CO2 is produced through natural means. It's produced by the rainforest, volcanoes, and forest fires. The third one is a real poignant point to talk about because before humans inhabited the Earth to the point that we do today, forest fires used to rage out of control and would basically expend tons of CO2 into the atmosphere because when a plant burns, it actually releases all the CO2 that it absorbed throughout its life. So these huge forest fires would burn and produce so much more CO2 than we do today, burning fossil fuels and driving around. To go further into it, industrialization in 1750, the humans themselves produced so much more CO2 than we do today because they had unrefined methods of burning coal. They could only, extract maybe 30 to 40% of the actual usable material, yet they would burn up 100% of it. That would release so much more CO2 in the air. When you actually toss that around, you think about it for a minute, it doesn't make sense as to why humans believe that we are warming the globe when all empirical scientific data says we aren't. Al Gore, with a little bit of manipulation and a nice chart in his little Mac there, tries to convince you otherwise, but he obviously took IPCC data and manipulated it to prove some point that he thought was necessary. Because he's been championing global warming for a long time. It's his hot ticket. It won him the Nobel Peace Prize, which was a fucking joke. Him and Obama have made that prize just completely worthless to me. So, the reason most people believe in global warming is this elitist perception that we want to think that we have so much control of our planet, we could warm it up that quickly. Over the last 100 years, we've warmed the planet up about 1 degree Fahrenheit, a little over 1 degree Fahrenheit in our mean temperatures. But when you look at the actual advancements of human civilization and how great life has gotten for a lot of people on this earth, I think 1 degree Fahrenheit would be an acceptable loss. Otherwise, turn off your TVs, throw away your air conditioning, move outside. Stop living in this comfortable habitat that we've worked so hard to build and is now, quote-unquote, ruining the earth. Well, like I said before, it's just not happening. We know it. Yet people still live in this delusional world that it is. Now, when I say this, I mean man-made global warming. I should specify that because it's accepted that global warming is happening. There are causes to global warming as it is today, and the main cause that most scientists will point to is the sun. We know solar output is going up. When solar output goes up, it's not really a mystery why the planet's warming up. This huge heat furnace in the middle of our solar system has now been cranked up a couple of degrees. Do you think your bedroom's not going to get hot? Well, it is. And that's what's happening. The sun is more a cause of global warming as we know it today. But it's a cycle. It's happened before. We have records through ice cores of, mean temperatures, I should say, on the Earth, and we've seen this happen multiple times. The Minoan warm period actually started with a severe temperature hike, much more severe than it is today, yet humans at that point were burning a lot of CO2. There was actually very little CO2 burnt. They produced CO2 when they burned logs to cook or to make a fire, to see, but that was about it. They didn't have cars, they didn't have air conditioning, they didn't have electricity, all of these things that produce so much more CO2. So if the Earth heated up naturally then, why do we have such a hard time believing that it's happening now? Two other periods that we definitely should point out are the Roman climate optimum and the medieval warm period. Both of these also were extreme temperature hikes. Yet again, there weren't any fossil fuels to be burned. None of this idea that the planet is being warmed up by humans was there. So they just kind of accepted it and went about their daily lives, which is something that we need to do today, because this idea that we can prevent it is just an ignorant perception, to say the least. And what's the point? We look at these three periods that I pointed out, and humankind actually flourished during all three. That's something we really should look at. Why is it humans flourish during these times, but we're kind of saying that it's bad and that we're causing it? Because realistically, there are things that can actually cause climate change the way that environmentalists today want you to believe. When you watch The Day After Tomorrow and you see the Earth just envelop in ice, that just doesn't happen. The last time winter came about like that was when Toba blew. A volcanic winter, because a super volcano, shoots 300 million cubic feet of land matter into the air that circulates around the atmosphere and basically blocks the sun out and turns us into this fucking cloud world. Yeah, our planet will freeze, but that's a major catastrophic event. That's not people just driving cars, that's a major volcano blowing. Actually, it blew so hard that it shot shit into space, because it had enough potential power to create exit velocity. Now, if you know science, that means it actually had enough speed to break Earth's gravitational pull. That's what caused the last major winter, that was portrayed in that movie. Another possible climate change, or I should say climactic event, would be an asteroid hitting the planet. That could cause a major climate change. But these are the things. Huge external factors, not humankind. We really need to educate ourselves. That's what it really boils down to. We become apathetic and ignorant, and we're just willingly accepting it. And it's atrocious. It's sickening to believe that people actually subscribe to the idea that we're warming up the planet when all data says that we're actually not. We have great lives. I understand the guilt factor, and that's what people believe. They believe they should feel guilty for what they're doing. But their guilt is causing atrocious laws to be put on the books. Cap and trade laws, they pervert economic systems. They create value when there is none there. And we're basically squandering resources to fight a problem that isn't happening to make some people feel good.